Welcome back to Rock Doc's Reading Room. Okay, so where were we? I'm living in London and I've stopped working for ELP because I've had this great idea about an all-in-one production company. And I meet up with Peter Watts of the Pink Floyd, who turns me on to this guy Jim Morris, who's got this incredible sound and lighting company. I am an organization guy, and my father's in the trucking business. And now, after all these years, my father has seen that I'm doing okay. He wants to be part of my business. If you remember, when I became the road manager for Edgar Winter and I quit college, not so happy. He took away the car, he took away the money, and I didn't talk for a couple of years. And you know how it is with father-son relationships. I mean, at times my relationship with my father has been unbelievable, and at times it's been horrible. My father is still alive. He's 95 years old, and he's doing pretty well. His mind is still okay, and he's keeping away from the coronavirus for the moment, so that's good. At any rate, so I've got this company now. We've done a couple of small gigs. I've gone after ELP. I know that they're going to buy the concept, and sure enough, they're going to partner with me for their next big tour. Greg Lake and I had become very, very close, and we remained close. And when I told Greg that my father wanted to come on the tour, I wasn't too happy about it, but Greg was the opposite. And he said, no, this is great. Your father should come on the tour. So let's take it up from there and see where we are. Okay, so now I was creating a serious business, and he, meaning my father, wanted in. Not only did he agree to participate, but he also wanted to come on tour. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. My father met us in London a few days before the tour began. Greg was on top of every detail, getting him a room at the Dorchester, the fanciest hotel in London, and insisting on inviting him to his muse house for a proper English dinner. The night couldn't have gone any better. And by the end of the evening, it was as if Greg and my father had known each other forever. In later years, whenever my father told the story of going on the road, he always began the tale with the fabulous dinner at Greg's. Greg was like this incredible guy, man. As I said, he was a family man. But he was also, if I hadn't met Greg in Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I would have been freaked out that that's the band that he was in. Greg was a crooner. He loved Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett. He was a great songwriter, singer, guitar player, bass player. But look at how he ended up with Carl and Keith. Prog rock, one of the pioneers and one of the greatest prog rock bands ever. But Greg was so much more than that. And as a person, he was just this really great guy. And, what can you say? The way he treated my father and stuff was unbelievable. All right. So, now Greg was also very much involved in the design of the production, and together we created a portable proscenium arch enclosing a 96,000 watt lighting system bright enough for film and video. Now, I'm sure you've been to concerts and you've seen proscenium arches and scaffolding and everything enclosed. We were one of the first to do that, certainly on that scale. It might have been done before, but I'm not sure it was ever done to that scale. This was massive and huge, and on paper it looked great until we actually got the equipment and just, tried to set it up and break it down and things like that. Okay, so the lights were placed on 4 towers sitting on the corners of the stage. In addition, we custom designed a 24-channel sound mixing board. My father provided special air ride trailers to minimize the potential damage to Keith's multiple keyboards and synthesizers, which needed special care, along with Carl Palmer's drum set worth about $10,000 to $15,000, a hell of a lot of money in those days. So the idea of the proscenium arch with full curtaining, and it was 60 foot wide by 30 foot deep, was to create a theatrical atmosphere. We wanted to provide a multimedia environment that could be reproduced night after night. Both Greg and I knew from experience that the more comfortable the group was on stage, the better the show. What better way to ensure this than to travel with your own theater? Once set up, it was massive. The only place big enough for us to rehearse was the famous Shepperton Film Studios outside of London. Greg was a real character too. So before we started rehearsals, he said, we're going to have our own theater. I want to be comfortable. All right. So we went shopping. And he went and bought a $5,000 Persian rug that he said, this is where I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand on the rug. I said, you sure? That's expensive, man. No. Carl and Keith went crazy. They couldn't believe it, and they argued, return it, you can't spend it, use your own money. I don't know how they worked it out monetarily, but Greg kept it. And if you look at concerts from that day on, you see many people with very nice furniture, sometimes rugs, whatever, and Greg was one of the first to do that. The famous Greg Lake. All right. The name of the tour was Get Me a Ladder, and Greg chose that name too. Why he chose that name, I'm not sure. Get me a ladder, we'll climb up the ladder. Get me a ladder. Stupid name, it didn't stick. Nobody probably even knows that. This tour, by the way, I'm going to post it because we did film it. It's a funny film. It's in various YouTube videos. I don't know if it's called the Manticore film or the ELP film, but I will definitely post it and you'll see what I mean. The film opens with my 3 trucks, right? And it's a scene from a helicopter with the 3 trucks, and on each truck is painted a name: Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, and the trucks are riding through the countryside. It was cool. All right. So it was, name of the tour was Get Me a Ladder. It was scheduled to last the better part of 4 months. ELP insisted I go on the entire tour, and I did. We had 75 roadies, 3 tractor trailers, 20 tons of equipment, and a film crew, and this was 1973. Logistics were a nightmare. It took close to 5 hours to set the stage up and 4 hours to break it down. The crew almost never left before 2 a.m., then drove through the night to the next city. That meant little or no sleep night after night. I mean, we were losing crew at a rate of 1 a week. I would remember during the gigs, man, I would get on the intercom because we would have these guys on the towers working the spots, and they'd fall asleep, and I would scream at them, get up, get up. And it was brutal. It got so bad, as a matter of fact, that in the middle of the tour, I hired a doctor to come give everybody B12 shots. And there's a scene in the movie that you'll see where you see like 5 guys in the road crew with their pants pulled down. You see their ass sticking out, waiting for the doctor to give them the shots. Wild in those days. I'll tell you another crazy story about the crew. I don't know if you remember my story about the Italian promoters, Francesco and Franco. Well, we played for them on this tour as well. Things were going okay. We did a gig in Bologna again. And this time before the gig, Francesco, the really good-looking guy, he comes and he says, we have a problem. What's the problem? What do you want, sound or lights? What do you mean, sound or lights? We want both. No, problem, generator. We have a problem with the generator, sound or lights. We were freaked out, man. I couldn't believe it. We needed both. How do you man? Eventually, we chose sound. They were a band. We chose sound. The lights, the way we worked out the lights, well, we had to use the stadium lights, which we could manipulate a bit, turning them on and off and different ones and stuff. But that was it. The road crew was pissed. My lighting guys were pissed. And Francesco, to make it better, said after the gig, I'll take you out to an Italian restaurant I know. We go out to the restaurant. The crew got loaded. I mean, loaded. They drank every drop of liquor in the restaurant, in the bar. Came time to pay. Francesco didn't have enough money. Had to use the money from the gig. The band didn't know about this. The road crew went nuts. They went nuts. They were in the process of stringing him up from the ceiling by his feet when it was either Stuart or I just said, enough's enough. Stop. And we worked it out, and that was it. But that's how wild it was, This was back in the day, man. It was crazy. All right. Back to my father, though. As much as my father tried to prep himself for the road, nothing could have prepared him. He had seen the conceptual drawings for the production, but had never seen it fully assembled. I could see he was impressed. The music was a bit much for him, though. As a child, he'd had an operation to remove an eardrum, and loud noise bothered him. He got a special pair of earplugs for the tour. Both the band and crew liked him and called him Coach. That was so cool for me, man. I didn't know how anybody was going to react, how he would react, I would react, but it really did work out okay. It was weird, though, having him on the road. I knew he would be cool about the women who were part of the scene. Drugs were something else. I'm sure he knew what was going on, but I tried to be careful around him, and we never really talked about it, and he was cool. After a week of spending almost every night in a different country, I could see that my father was ready to go home. It had been an incredible bonding experience and an opportunity to understand each other better. He isn't a man of many words, but I could tell he was proud of what I had accomplished. Every son is looking for approval from his father, and in many ways, a father-son relationship is incomplete without it. I'd waited a long time for my father to see that I too was a good businessman, and I reveled in the knowledge that he finally got it. So, as crazy as that tour was, it definitely provided me with an opportunity to get close with my father and have a special experience. And we did, and we still talk about it to this day. All right, I'm going to stop there. You know what? I'll tell you one more crazy experience on that tour. So, Keith Emerson loved motorcycles. He was really into motorcycles. And there was a motorcycle club in Switzerland, in Zurich, I think, called the Bones. And they had these big calf thigh bones that they would wear as part of their colors and stuff. At any rate, we thought it would be this fabulous idea. Keith will ride on a big Harley, leading the Bones into the show. It didn't work out well, as you could imagine, and I should have learned my lesson from Altamont. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but they were raucous, and they wouldn't leave, and the show didn't go as planned, and I don't even have a good picture to show you of how that went down. But that's the kind of tour it was. All right, that's it for today. Next week, I'm going to start with something that happened on a January night when I got a call from my friend Peter Watts, and he said, come down to Abbey Road Studios. We're mixing what would become the Dark Side of the Moon album, and I'm going to leave it right at there. All right, hope you enjoyed it today. Have a great week. Let's hear the bump. All right. We'll see you in a week or sooner. You know where to find me, Facebook, everywhere else. And always keep on rocking. Bye.